So it's like recording kicked off. So
Everyone's smiling.
yeah, thanks everyone for who's able to hop on. This is kind of the first kickoff for the client group. We will be doing the client group of all the groups. Will probably have some of the more regular meetings, at least in the near term. So we probably will ramp up to doing weekly meetings, and then as needed. So we probably won't do one next week, but still going into the end of February, start targeting at least weekly as we start getting progress, more participation, and whatnot. So welcome. And today we basically, besides just general intros to the group, kind of cover. We have like a couple initial efforts. And we'll kind of cover those topics, and then we slotted some time, Jeff, for you to go over the stuff that you guys have been working through on the mobile wallet front. And then after that, we'll kind of just do Q&A. And then, so I guess anyone, obviously you can, during the Q&A part, you can speak up in voice form. If you're more comfortable in chat form due to speaking, or just, you're better at typing English and speaking English, whatever it might be, go ahead and throw questions in the chat as well, and we can kind of address them as we go.
Do you want to introduce yourself shortly, since you have another name?
Yeah. So I am Nate. My user handle is Kaizen on pretty much most of like the forums and stuff in Slack. So I'm kind of just working, kind of on the core dev effort and really the open source effort. Besides like community stuff and kind of process and project management, probably spend most of my technical time on infrastructure and tooling, kind of service and SaaS management for any sort of cloud services we'll be doing. And so that's a quick gist on me. And then just kind of helping out here in the early days, kind of direct, and then Istvan, you can kind of like do introduction for yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Istvan. My handle is Dexter, so the icon, the little guy. And I'm basically working with the NEM Foundation in Europe as a solutions architect. I'm temporarily managing this special interest group with Nate. And I see some of my colleagues here as well. And I'm very happy to see people from far, far away, like Planet Hooky and Craig the Code and so forth, also colleagues in Malaysia. Happy to have everyone here at the same time. Of course, Jeff as well, since I'm also talking with Jeff on a regular basis. So shall we do an intro, or shall we just hop in and as we go?
Yeah. Let's just hop right into the agenda. And then just to verify, you'll be jotting down some notes.
Yes, I will drop in some notes as comments, but I will move them to the notes what you see here, because I'm the one who's sharing the screen, except if you want to share your screen, then I can type notes here. But basically, I will make sure that everything can be also read after the meeting.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, just as long as one of us is getting it down, that'll be good for later consumption by those that couldn't make it, or that show up late or whatever.
So I would say I will give it a start, and then I will hand over to you, Nate, and later on to Jeff, before we have the open discussion. So basically, what I've put in the slide is the GitHub page of the special interest group client. And very important is the README. It will get updated. There you will find the meeting notes later on, and also future meetings. If you haven't done so, please also join Slack. So this is maybe for the people who will rewatch this video. So here's the invitation link, and join the sig-client channel. At the same time, we are also here to define here the goals. So some of the goals, client says everything that is client facing. Now, if you start at the basics, what is the state of the SDKs? And what I'm showing here are the free versions we have until now for the server release. And as you can see, the server and the REST gateway is updated. We are now at cow, which is the newest, was released last week. And unfortunately, the SDK is not updated yet. So basically, this is where the priority lies in, and this will serve the basis for many of the wallet or client efforts. I've also listed the command line interface. So if you click on here, you will get to the command line interface and the prototyping tool. So these are already existing repositories. And as you can see, it says under construction, because first the SDK needs to be updated, then we can update the other tools. And this is just a nice reminder that command line interface is one of the clients that a developer will face first before going to a wallet. So it shouldn't be neglected, and that's why it's here early on. So about the base web wallet effort. So if I go back, so I'm going back to the GitHub page just for you to show, as you can see, so showing you how you can get there. And basically I've showed you the README, but there's also the base wallet overview. So this will be the next topic. And I think it's best to hand over to you, Nate, where you can take over and explain what the base wallet is all about.
Sure. So yeah, you can actually just leave it on here, and then I'll just have you advance on the slides. So yeah, so basically, think of what we're calling the base web wallet, which is kind of generic naming. Essentially, think of this as like a base community usable implementation, primarily for developers, but also for end users. And so think of this as kind of what Nano Wallet is serving in version 1 of NEM. This will be kind of like, think of it kind of like Nano Wallet version 2. It'll be web-based, primarily focused on just like general desktop usage. And then where it will differ from Nano Wallet is kind of like a streamlined, minimized approach. So we look at like a base set of initial features. This is non-exhaustive, but kind of like your high level, where obviously you want to be able to send transactions and deal with assets, mosaics. We've talked about some address book style functionality, some of the new features like metadata, which we won't really talk about today, but those will become like more important as it matures. And then namespace management, which will be similar to the old style. There is some changes in the latest release, and then every release going forward of how namespaces and assets are working with each other. That will be more apparent to the developer than the end user. The end user won't really technically notice a difference per se, at least on average. So this is just kind of like an initial list, again, non-exhaustive, but just to kind of level set with where we're kind of looking at it from a starting point. I guess next slide. So really, while I will refer to this slide in reference to the base web wallet, it's pretty much applicable to anything that we're doing at the client level for the community projects, right? So anything that is deemed like a community open source wallet or wallet library or whatever you want to call it, we really want to make sure that regardless of how little or how many features are targeted, that we kind of take from a development approach and an architecture approach, this kind of modular and extensible approach. The primary reason is really just, when you think about the range of use cases, in theory, what we're really trying to target is, the technology and the protocol should be able to say, hey, it's not just about cryptocurrency, right? It's not just about, public network cryptocurrency and ZEM. It's about any type of asset management. It's about message transactions and different types of workflows and usability. We're trying to cast a wide net with the technology. And so whether it's a public cryptocurrency network, whether it's security tokens, whether it's land asset management, whether it's just data auditing and provenance and timestamping, it does not matter. So with that wide range, what we don't want to do is build highly specific vertical wallets that are essentially like locked in, or build ones that are kitchen sink that come with like every single feature. So we want to say, hey, there's a wide range of features. Let's target the lowest level and the lowest common denominator for base functionality of how to work with the varying objects in the system. And then again, plugin approach, module approach, where like an easiest example would be like Apostle, right? So like where you have Apostle embedded into Nano Wallet V1 in any sort of community V2 effort, it should not be embedded. It should be extensible, and like the default wallet would not come with it. If you want to build a wallet that had it in there, you would set some config files and maybe install some new modules depending on what language, if modules, if you're in Node.js world, packages or gems or whatever, right? Depending on your language du jour that you're writing in. But that should be the base approach. And then that will allow developers to kind of package and release their own targeted wallets, which might come with some base modules, and then they might have some custom modules. Or it might come with the same set of modules as another developer, but they use different UI, UX because they're just have a different use case or something. So that's kind of this, again, we use the term base approach to kind of this effort. And again, we're talking specifically about the quote unquote web wallet and what would be deemed like a Nano Wallet 2.0, but it's applicable for everything, right? It's applicable for native wallets for iOS and Android, a native desktop wallet should one ever be created. It doesn't matter. So it's the general idea is like anything we're doing at the community level, the open source level, should start from this lower level base foundation, target to be extensible, get feedback on the design and pluggability, and then everything and everyone kind of builds on top of that for their specifics, right? So yeah, that's kind of what we're approaching. I mean, we've had lots of conversations for, I don't know, about, let's say, off and on for about 6 months. And it's always been like, hey, let's wait for a level of stability on the protocol and the API and the SDKs for readiness. And then two, just kind of resource focus, right? Like we don't, that's always obviously a constant thing, is having focused resources that can like dedicate specific time to these things versus, hey, I can spend 4 hours this week and then I won't touch it for a week and then I'll spend 10 hours. It's like, we really need, some people with focus, like, hey, you should be spending 20 to 40 hours a week with one or more people. So in the meantime, we've kind of been picking at it. But again, this kind of, the kickoff of the group is really to kind of like start to dig in deeper on this. And so, yeah, that's kind of that part. So I guess next slide. So part of this, I kind of talked about this modular approach. That's a lot of that's at the kind of functional development level, like the library or SDK or class level. It's also applicable to the UI level. And besides how to properly have like extensible UI as well as like SDK, there's also the question of, hey, what do we actually want to support for a base, web wallet? So over these past, X months, we've kind of said like, okay, in today's modern web development world, kind of the three we would look at the most are React, Vue, and Angular. Everyone kind of has their backgrounds and opinions, or they don't. So this order is kind of the implied order of preference now, but we're not locked into anything. We haven't started developing anything, but we kind of look at like React being probably the most, they're all kind of widely used, of course, but being the kind of most minimal, approachable from, it's not like a kitchen sink where you're trapped into someone's app stack. You can write generic stuff and just leverage it for a lightweight Vue layer. Vue is fantastic as well, though. Angular is solid, widely used, but relatively heavy for this type of stuff. At least, again, my personal opinion. So anyways, these are more topics that we'll be kind of discussing. Is kind of like, besides the general functional design, But we want everyone's input, and primarily the input will be weighted based on who's actually going to be managing and implementing the core of it. But we want everyone, right? Because some people might be like, hey, I'm a Vue developer and I don't have the time to actually build this, but I do have the time to review and fix bugs in a month or two or something, right? So that's good to know. So again, and then I guess Ismail, I know you had some points on kind of and feelings around like the UI level.
As you have mentioned, this will be definitely a topic for the future, and I will also propose, a very simple way in laying out the pros and cons, because I feel that this needs to happen, in the community, since everyone has their opinion about the framework. And if you do it once, it will be a lot easier for someone new joining to understand the reasoning why at this point in time we made that decision to follow through with one of the frameworks. So I will propose such a table where we can fill in the blanks together and reach a decision.
Yeah, sounds good. So what's the next slide in the topics? Or actually go ahead and finish your notes.
So Jeff asked, what's everyone's favorite? Just throwing it into the round. Do we have?
Okay. Yeah. So I see favorite of Angular. But once you think, yep. So actually, Ravi, in terms of Dart and Flutter, that would be applicable at the kind of. I mean, technically it's cross-platform, but that would definitely be a potential candidate for the mobile wallets. So when we start looking at, actually, this will kind of touch on, shortly segue into Jeff going over it, to basically say like, hey, do we want to target a native wallet or do we want to target a cross-platform wallet between iOS and Android, such as, Flutter, React Native, or the like, right? So that's definitely applicable to that. Yeah.
Then what I wanted to say in the slide before here, mentioning something like my Ether wallet. I think my Ether wallet is really good because it's quite easy to get into, to load the wallet. The hurdle is quite low to get into. So are we thinking about that kind of wallet? Should we discuss it here as a vision to have such a wallet, or is it still open?
I think it's a combination of open and then highly related, right? So I think if we look at the current, nano wallet approach of like a bundled web app that you can kind of just launch from a directory locally, and then we look at the notion of my Ether wallet and the like, and we look at the pretty much what we're looking at is something that is powered by the browser and web technology that is extensible, easy to use, well designed, and can run offline and online, right? Like that's kind of the starting point as far as like ideas and discussion, and then everything else is kind of open for, hey, let's kind of start designing with purpose, and then kind of hacking around on implementation, knowing that it's going to iterate and polish as we go.
Good. Jumping to the next slide. So on slide number 8, I put in relevant NAM improvement proposals. So basically for the wallet, what I see very relevant is the QR library. So please check that out. It's still in draft form. So as soon as the PMC and also the NIP is moved to the PMC, or at least decided on the committee, I hope to see progress there soon, and also the URI schema. So for covering our bases, I put it in here, and I think in case we will have new things coming up, the process is to have NIPs and to connect it to these special interest groups, to the relevant projects.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so the fourth point in the agenda, Jeff is taking over. Jeff is activating his microphone and he wants to.
Yes, I am. Okay. I have a couple of comments. I don't know if you guys want me to actually go through the work I've done so far, but I love what you have done so far, Nate and Isfan. I just want to make a couple comments on the general kind of thoughts so that we can think about them. I have a lot of experience building apps on NIM. I have a lot of experience building bad apps on NIM. And so I've learned a lot of mistakes the hard way of what tends to be successful or not successful. And to me, when I think about making kind of the first version of an app, my goal is to, one, make an experience so that people are happy, but two, make sure that it's easily forkable for other projects. I consider making a kind of base wallet for NIM to actually be also making a base wallet for 10 or 15, hopefully 100 projects. I literally hope we have 100 people building different Catapult projects because that makes this a great ecosystem. So that being said, my mind, when I'm thinking about making a wallet, I'm thinking about what can we do to get a wallet in the hands of most people easily. And when I review all the different wallets that we had, and we've had a lot of wallets, the wallet that actually got forked the most was the NimPay wallet, believe it or not. NimPay was not the most beautiful app. It did not have the most function, and it was a little bit buggy. This has been the #1 app for projects to fork. And so when I think about NimPay, what made it so attractive to get into the hands of other people, it definitely wasn't its UI or UX. It had something to do with, I think, basically that just developers are lazy. I think that when they went through GitHub, they said, I have clients, how can I get with a simple click and copy and paste my wallet for my fork of NIM into the most hands of the most people possible. And when they looked through the different wallets, that was NimPay, because we have the iOS wallet, but that was in Swift. And then we had the Android wallet, but that was in Java. We had the desktop wallet, Nano wallet, but that ended up being a pretty big wallet with a lot of stuff, and they weren't sure how to minimize it or remove the extra things. And some people didn't use desktops. They only wanted mobile wallets. So having a mobile wallet that was easily copyable turned out to be the one that everybody forged. And so I kept that in mind when I was initially making a wallet design about like, how do you get a wallet into the hands of the most people for the most projects? And I want to mention too, when we're talking about wallets, I qualify between web wallet, which to me, I would like to be a little bit clear on the terms, Nate, exactly, because I'm hearing different things. To me, the Mu wallet is a true web wallet. To me, Gimmer's wallet was a true web wallet. A web wallet to me means basically you open Google and you go to an address and then a wallet page opens up.
Maybe you were using the word Mu. Maybe most of the people don't know that you mean My Ether wallet.
My Ether wallet, yeah. So My Ether wallet is a web wallet. Blockchain.info has a very popular, one of the most popular web wallets for Bitcoin. My Ether wallet for Ethereum, NIM. Our most popular one is the now canceled Gimmer Lite wallet, basically. Which at one time every NIM server had a wallet built into it that anybody could access. And so to me, that's what a web wallet is. And then we have standalone wallets, which is kind of what the Nano wallet is now, or apps, which basically you can pretty easily take any web wallet, if it's a light web wallet, and turn it into a standalone app with, putting it in a package. And there's also, with mobile, you can have web wallets, which are, you go to this address and now you use this wallet on your phone. But then there's also standalone or apps or native wallets, right, on phone. And I think that there's kind of like a hierarchy of when it comes to forkable. This is why I'm trying to explain this, is it's kind of unidirectional. It's like a one-way hash. So for instance, you cannot really ever, for the most part, design a native app and then turn it into a web wallet. But you can design a web wallet and through Ionic or Electron or whatever, turn it into an actual app that people can run on their phone. Also, you cannot really ever go from desktop to mobile, but you can go from mobile to desktop. And what I mean by that is every time I've seen someone try to make a web wallet on the desktop, in theory, you can scale that down on mobile and get a good like view on mobile. But in reality, it almost always is terrible. Like whenever someone takes a desktop design and then they try to fit that into a little bitty screen, it ends up looking pretty horrible. What you can do is you can take a mobile screen and always expand it up and make it bigger, and then add stuff to it or change it up. So basically, I think that if you want to have an app or you want to have a wallet for lazy developers in the world that just want to copy and paste and expand their project out, the easiest thing is to build some kind of like JavaScript type mobile wallet, and then they can turn that into native, or they can turn that into an app, or they can expand that out into a desktop app. And that's so, and that could even be turned into a desktop web wallet or a desktop native wallet, you know, into an app. So it's kind of like a one-way flow, basically, on how things work. So when I made this design for this mobile wallet, I was really trying to keep this in mind, that that this design could more or less be ported to a desktop at some point. But if I started making a big, huge desktop wallet, then I couldn't. Now, what you said earlier, Nate, about having a desktop wallet that's very modular, and then people can use that to build off and specialize, I think is incredibly important. I think that that's a very important thing to do. And I think that we need that. But I also think that that's more for advanced users. And I also think that's more for...
Well, I guess classify user. Like you're saying user. Who do you mean by user?
Okay, so I basically break it users down. When I think about making wallets, I think about basically it can be broadly classified into two groups. We have the people that are buying coins and selling coins and trading coins, which is like 90% of people. And that's 90% of people 90% of the time. So when I was designing this wallet, it was specifically designed to meet the people that are just want to buy a coin and trade a coin. And basically, that is most of crypto. Then you have this 10%, which are the true crypto people, which is everybody in this chat. And I think that everybody in this chat right now are real blockchain enthusiasts, and we love to get our hands dirty, and we love to do like really neat things. And for the people like us, we want a wallet that's modular. We want a wallet that's customizable. We want a wallet that we can come in and do cool things with.
So,
but I do.
So let me I'll just, sorry to interrupt. I'll pause you there. So
anytime,
yeah. So basically that's perfect. So like, thanks for kind of like clarifying on the user. And the reason I asked that is so everything you just said totally makes sense. But I will frame that as you are talking about end users. You are talking about people that are NEM community crypto users that want to trade tokens and buy tokens and deal with mosaics. So when I was referring to something that's base and modular,
Mm-hmm.
we at that level, when we're talking in terms of that, we do not care about the end user. We care about the developer who's building the wallets, right?
Mm.
So I guess just as far as like clarification, let's say user. Let's use your definition of user for user. So whenever, granted, we might have some confusion. Some people that won't be on this meeting and going forward and pop in later. So let's try to, whenever people are in the client group or talking on Slack, let's use the term user to mean end user. And then let's use the term developer to mean strictly developer who's building these, 1 to n number of apps. So I think that'll help clarify. So that helps. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, good explanation on
Very,
that.
very good. Very good.
So using your explanation, Nate, and also what I noted down earlier, having this configurable, I mean, to me, we will have developers with more adoption who will pick for certain applications. I mean, we are talking about cryptocurrencies and the solutions we can use today, but this different kinds of assets, companies using wallets, people distributing, customizing for specific companies. I think and hope the 10% will become a bigger number. And then we are really talking about developers. So maybe we are not completely on the same page, end user. So Jeff is for me more the end user perspective, while we should also get in this developer vision.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're definitely, and they're not like mutually exclusive, especially in terms of this client group and the the ongoing efforts. But I would definitely say from a focus, we kind of have two tightly coupled yet parallel tracks that are coupled yet independent. So one track is build a nice base of libraries that are extensible, pluggable, and configurable for the developer. So I'm a developer, you're a developer. We want to build two completely different wallets, but leverage 90% of the same code base. And I'm just going to build my own custom UI and skin, which I might take from a base skin, to Jeff's point. I might be like, hey, this is a cool skin. I'm going to fork it, set my own gradients and colors of buttons, and boom, I'm done. Put my icon. And then in parallel, it's like, hey, how do we have some nice, cool, good UX, to Jeff's point, that's like easy for end users to use that want to accomplish certain tasks. And I see that as yet another set of usability and extensibility. Now, at some point, every unique wallet, regardless of the crossover, right? Like you could take 5 wallets that are 95% the same. That 5% could just be colors and buttons and branding and the base token. So instead of Zem, it's, a Bob token or something, right? Or it could be something significantly drastic where someone's like, hey, I have a completely different user flow. Because the one thing I want to point out is the biggest thing you see that is completely, I'll just say completely wrong from like the crypto space, and like Nem is not exclusive. This goes for most crypto projects. It's mostly only applicable for like Nem and Ethereum and a couple other ones that target the enterprise and private networks. You have to realize that wallets, in the terms of Nem and Zem in the community, wallet is like the center of the universe. It does everything for you, right? Whereas if you go into an enterprise that's leveraging it, there's quite a possibility that that enterprise already has a quite encompassing mobile application, let's say, if we're talking about mobile wallets. And that mobile application might do 20 things for that company, of which they're adding thing number 21 and 22, which happens to touch the blockchain. So we also have to switch our mindset that we're building something, that the app is the center of the universe, where people say, do you know what? I'm not building a cryptocurrency wallet. I am taking some libraries and views and embedding it as 2 views inside of my app that has 80 views, right? So it's like, it's not a huge deal, but just that kind of mental shift when we start compartmentalizing end users and developers, it definitely changes the way, again, we're kind of getting in the weeds here and talking about like the architecture. And we're not going to solve it on this, meeting or in the next meeting, but in the coming, hopefully 2 to 4 weeks or something, we will start to kind of settle on like, hey, this is kind of the modular approach at the functional level. Then, we'll start kind